This week, it was time to do some repairs. Getting ready to build some fresh copters, and I need some backup rigs because when you go out and test frames and motors and stuff like that, you break stuff. So this guy suffered a motor failure a couple weeks back. I smashed onto some concrete, and it's bent up just enough that these motors need to be replaced. And it just so happens that I have some prototype of the 2306 2700 kV in red. We didn't produce these, so I have a set left over. I'm gonna put those in here. This is gonna be my Brop. That's kind of my Go Fast rig from the X Labs guys. The frame has been wonderful. I don't even think I've broken an arm on this one yet, but it's been kind of the one that I try to go fast with on racetrack day. So we're gonna pull this guy apart, swap the motors out, and you can ride along. So got her torn down, and you can see it's pretty dirty inside, so I take a little bit of time to clean everything off so that while we're working on it, no more debris gets down in there, any of that, and kind of go through and dust all these guys off too at the end. The receiver, the way it's mounted in here, I'm going to have to unsolder the motor wires to get him out, but that's no big deal. It's probably best to clean it all off ahead of time, like I was saying, but I completely forgot that. I got so excited to solder, I just started soldering, but luckily this guy wasn't terrible. But I like to go through and try to get out as much of the loose dirt from everything as you can so that that doesn't stay there. And now, pretty much, we're just going to peel the motors off, place the new ones, get the wires cut down to size. Okay, so motors are out. This guy had these sweet little soft mounts on here. I'm not sure these are needed anymore, so I'm going to ditch those and just go to normal mount because it seems like it's just more trouble than it's worth. And this build is probably about a year old now, so the beta flights and everything has all gotten better. You want to try to keep the dirt and stuff off your bench, so I always try to move this stuff over the side a little bit so that I'm not working on a pile of dirt and nastiness all the time. But yeah, right off to the border of where I keep my tools. Brilliant. So, gonna plop in the new motors. I'm gonna mount one up, do the lengths, all four of them, get them all stripped and tinned first, and then do the install. So fresh motors installed, and what I do with the wire length is I always like to have a little bit of extra length. I don't like them to be taut, so that if you snap an arm or twist an arm, break an arm, whatever, motor comes loose, you're not cranking on the wires immediately. You got a little bit of slack there, and then maybe change speed controls later on, do a different configuration, use these motors in a different build. That might be enough wire to not have to do any extensions. So next step after that is real simple. We're going to strip and tin all the wires first so that we can just kind of go through it and hammer down on the soldering. There's a couple different ways to go about this step. Some people like to strip and tin and then go to it, and then strip and tin and then go to the speed control, strip and tin, then go to the speed control, and so on. Gives the speed control a little time to cool down in between each of the tasks and saves you a little bit of time. So kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other to me. For the most part, if you're doing the motor wires on there correctly, you're not going to be heating up too much anyway, but there is some validity to taking your time a little bit and let it cool off in between. One thing to always remember when you strip and tin wires, to twist them nice and tight. Make sure that you get any of those loose strands of wires that are going to be out there, and you always want to make sure that you have a nice uniform coat of thin layer, if you will, of solder around the outside edge. My solder joints should look pretty shiny and uniform for the most part, and you don't want any pokey guys sticking off either side either if you can help it. So hopefully that looks pretty darn good. I need to take a little closer look myself because goofy camera angle and while I'm soldering it. But I think that's passable for now. Maybe the next 3 will be nicer because I'm going to move them over to the side a little bit more. Let's see here. There we go. It's not the prettiest thing, but it's passable. I gotta fix this one and take a look at that one. Now it's just a matter of buttoning it all back up. Gonna tidy up the wires, put the receiver back underneath these guys. It should slide in without everything taped in. I usually tape the receiver down, put a zip tie around it for safety. So, and then it'll just be a matter of redoing the test hover. So, it looks like I got a little wire whoops right there that I just noticed, so I'm going to fix that real quick too. Thought I was done, I'm not done. Also, another good reason to leave your wires a little bit longer than they need to be. In case you got a wire whoops, you don't have to do anything crazy. I'm just going to try to strip this down to where the whoops is. It looks like maybe when I stripped it, I caught it a little sideways. Cut off the extra, solder that guy back on there. So before you can go in and do a test hover, you need to go plug into BL Heli and check motor orientation. So I did that, and it turned out that all 4 motors were backwards. So if you were to try to arm with all 4 motors backwards, it freaks out and get the motors real hot, and you can have some problems. So you want to make sure that you do all that plugged in versus, or plugged into the computer versus with your radio system. And now, oops, I forgot to turn the radio. So now everything should be all right, and we get motors going the right way. And now we can go test it. Well, test hover was complete. Everything seems to work fine. I hovered it around for like probably 2 minutes or so. Did a couple little mini punch outs. Checked the video. Video looks good. So I think seems to be a successful motor swap. A few things that always come up. What kind of solder do I use? I usually try to use the 60-40 rosin core stuff. How hot is my iron? Probably 700, 800 or so degrees. The dial on mine says it's at 800, but that iron hasn't been calibrated in a while. Just remember to always strip and tin your wires nice and clean, get them twisted. Keep your work area pretty clean. Try to wipe off any debris. You don't want to do your stripping and tinning directly over your speed control. Before you do any sort of plugging in and powering on with the radio, plug into BL Heli, make sure your motors go the right direction, and then you can do your corrections and everything like that in either BL Heli or Betaflight, rather. So, there you have it, folks, a quick motor swap. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please do send me an email, charlie@hobbywing.com.